Former Arsenal man Eddie Nketiah had opened the door for Arsenal with a 97th minute winner versus Liverpool, but Arsenal still had to do their job, and we came up with a late winner of our own versus Newcastle to ensure we get nice and close to Liverpool in the Premier League title race. This is the Arsenal Unfiltered match review of Arsenal 2, Newcastle 1. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage with me, your host Mark. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you are still absolutely on a high from yesterday's result. I know I am. It was a brilliant weekend of football for an Arsenal fan. Spurs dropped points, Chelsea lost, United lost, and critically, as I mentioned at the top there, Liverpool lost in the 97th minute to Eddie Nketiah's pretty damn good finish, let's be honest. And we had a huge opportunity to walk through the door that was open for us and get much closer to Liverpool in the Premier League title race. And I'm going to emphasise this point. We are so close to Liverpool in the Premier League title race with Old Trafford, St James's Park, Anfield done. Massive, absolutely massive. And actually a really, really good victory yesterday. Not just the circumstances of how it came about, but just the points in general, the context of it. Really, really great. So I'm obviously going to review that today. Just want to say before I get started, a massive thank you to everyone, whether you're a new listener or a returning listener, for the support during September. It's been a record-breaking month for the podcast, and I've really enjoyed it. We've switched a few things up this month, bringing more instant reactions, doing a couple of things slightly differently to make it easier for you guys to access the podcast. So I really hope that you have enjoyed that. And yeah, we've had a lot of listeners from a lot of different countries, so all around the world. I just want to say welcome and thank you so much for being here. If you want to continue to be here, make sure you go hit follow wherever you get your podcasts from. It will mean that you make sure that you get all the information ahead of our game against Olympiacos, which I can't believe I'm going to say this, is 2 days and 12 hours away. So the games are coming thick and fast. I think there'll be some rotation for that game, and I will be talking about that in my match preview podcast, so go and hit follow if you don't want to miss that. Thank you so much. Let's get into it then, and I just want to talk a little bit about the context before we get into it, because I mentioned this in the match preview. We had a horrendous record at St James's Park, and I thought there was a really interesting bit in the commentary of yesterday's game where Arsenal have been criticised for a lot of just random stuff that other teams don't seem to get criticised for. And we scored. Obviously, Mikel Merino scored in the 84th minute. We'll come on to that goal a little bit later in the podcast. But Gary Neville said, and I don't like giving Gary Neville airtime, but I'm going to talk about it. He said, title-winning teams, or something to this effect, title-winning teams go on and win the game from here. And my instant reaction to that was, okay, we're going to just analyse Arsenal without context again, are we? Because, you know, we'd had a pretty good penalty shout turned down. We'd been the better team, and the point Gary Neville was making, I think, was very loaded. I get, you know, Arsenal need to win this game. Absolutely, and it was important for our title challenge and important for the fact that Liverpool dropped points, that we went on to win it, but that was a completely loaded comment from Gary Neville, and it was loaded in the sense of, you know, it's not, okay, Arsenal have done well, but it's just not enough yet. And I'm so happy that we went on to silence that sort of comment, that sort of thing, you know, and I made sure we got the 3 points, because anything less than the 3 points in this game, I could hear the narrative. Liverpool have dropped points and Arsenal failed to capitalise like we did a couple of times last season. I remember Liverpool drew 2-2 to Everton and we weren't able to then go on and win our next game. There were a couple of moments like that, and I really didn't want that to be the case. So to get the last minute winner was really important because, like I say, the context of the game, the Liverpool result, it was absolutely massive that we walked through that door and we took that opportunity. I said in the preview podcast, 8 points is not unrecoverable. So obviously, if it had been 5 points or 4 points, that is also, you know, that's pretty recoverable, right? I would feel very positive about 4 points being the gap, having played the games that we've played. And, you know, actually, it's very close with the Dominic Szoboszlai free kick from being a completely different scenario. But for it to be as low as it is now, of just 2 points with the games that we've played and the games that we have coming up, I think it's massive, absolutely massive. And I think the performances really, really warrant us being in a good position. The context around the game, like I say, was huge, and I'm so happy that we were just able to answer, the criticism that you could hear coming. And I'll mention him one more time, and then I will talk about the football. Gary Neville, when we scored that 96th minute winner, you could hear the disappointment in his voice because he knew he had to rewrite his podcast. And I'm so happy that we were able to quieten that noise and make sure that Arsenal are talked about in glowing terms for the rest of this week until we play our next Premier League game. Let's get into it then, and we start with the lineup. And he went for it. Mikel Arteta has been accused of maybe being a bit industrious, and I thought if Ødegaard wasn't going to play, it was likely Eze would play off the left and Merino would play in the middle, as we did. I know Eze didn't play off the left, but Merino in the middle was in the Manchester City game and the Liverpool game. I thought this would be the same scenario. Away at St James's Park is really challenging, and Guimaraes, Tonali, Joelinton, very, very good midfield. He played Eze, he played Rice, he played Zubimendi. Sorry, I'll go through the full lineup. Raya in goal, Timber, Mosquera, Gabriel Calafiori, Zubimendi, Rice, Saka, Eze, Trossard, Gyökeres. Now, Eze in the middle was a surprise to me. Mosquera at centre-back was a surprise to me. But Saliba did come on at half-time, so I wonder if it was just a fitness issue for Saliba. I know he was probably brought on a little bit because of Mosquera's mistake in the lead-up to the goal. But I think, if Saliba's not genuinely fit enough, he doesn't come on at 45 minutes. I think he has the fitness, and probably this was very, very precautionary from Arteta because maybe there was something that he just wasn't quite comfortable with. So yeah, pretty precautionary, but I like Christian Mosquera, and there you go. That's actually Premier League bubble burst, Christian Mosquera. We'll talk to that in a moment. Eze in the midfield, though, that's a big call. It's a big call because it does mean that there's a chance that we get run through a little bit in this midfield, and we've been run through with the kind of first choice midfield in this kind of game before. So I think it was bold from Arteta to go for that. But Eberechi Eze absolutely repaid his faith. I'm just looking. I used SofaScore to get the lineup, so I remember them correctly. They've given him a 6.4, which I think is an absolute travesty. He was brilliant. He played on the half turn really, really well. He was physical when he needed to be. And I don't necessarily mean he was flying into tackles or he was, giving it big un to Bruno and Tonali and all of that. But what he was able to do really well was defend the ball and protect the ball, I should say, when a ball was played into him in central areas. And I think this is something Ødegaard does very well. And it was interesting to see Eze do it as well. I think that will have given Arteta a lot of trust in Eze in the middle. This performance was a really, really good performance. He had one key pass, 47 touches, 4 shots, which was, again, that's really good. And I thought he did well. He's probably got a poor SofaScore rating because of possession lost stuff. But I think it's because he was trying things. And he was really, really good in the central areas. And he gave us attacking verve. We had 20 shots in the game in total. 3 in the first 10 minutes and 8 shots before their goal. Bear in mind, in some recent matches, we've had 11 total. So this was really good. We stepped forward and went for them very, very early. We had a couple of really good moves throughout that first half, and especially before the goal. The one that springs to mind is the one where we work it down our right-hand side. Bukayo Saka comes inside and plays a great pass just round the Newcastle player to Declan Rice. It was a risky pass in the middle, because actually if that is intercepted, and it's very close to being intercepted, there is a huge transitional opportunity for Newcastle. But big players make brave plays, and I thought Bukayo Saka did a really good job with that pass. Trossard is then put in by Declan Rice, and he hits the post. And it was really, really disappointing, but we should have scored there. I absolutely believe that. I'm not sure what he's doing with his finish. I think he must misstrike it or not get quite the contact that he wants, because it comes up quite high and it is going near post. I'm not saying he wasn't necessarily trying to go near post, but I think if you're going near post, you hit it low, you make it difficult. He tries to hit it high, or does he try to hit it high? I don't know. It just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like a Leandro Trossard finish, and I think he just got that wrong. He hits the post, and Newcastle absolutely got away with one because we had cut them open in that moment. There were other shots as well. Eze had a couple from the edge of the area early in the game. I think Victor Gyökeres had a couple blocked as well. So we were going really, really well, and we obviously had that penalty shout. Well, we had the penalty awarded, didn't we? And VAR turned it over. Now, let's talk about this because I think it's a really interesting talking point. Now, on first viewing, it seems pretty clear that Victor Gyökeres got to the ball first, got a touch round the keeper, and is then cleared out. There is clear contact of the knees, and the ref on first viewing awards that penalty. When you go to VAR and you watch the slow motion replays, you can see a very fine touch from Nick Pope, like a very, very fine touch. And I think that is important. It is an important discussion. And I'm going to take this in two directions, so just bear with me here. I think the fact that he gets a touch, and I'm applying the Arseblog rule here of if it was down the other end, the fact that he gets a touch, I would want that to not be a penalty. Because I do think when you look at the trajectory of the ball, he gets enough of a touch that it's fairly likely that Victor Gyökeres isn't going to have control of that ball after the fact. Another key thing is I think he gets the touch and then he gets the man. I saw a lot of comment online of, well, just because you get the ball doesn't mean you can take the man. And absolutely, I agree with that. But I think that's context dependent. And I was having this discussion with my friend who I was watching the game with. If it's square on, they are facing each other. Nick Pope's got the ball, and it's a light touch, yes, but he has got the ball, and Victor Gyökeres runs into him in that scenario. If it's from the side or from behind, that's a very different scenario, but that's not often something you get with goalkeepers. So I guess that's my opinion. I think if I'd seen David Raya get a significant touch on the ball like that, and I didn't think the striker was going to be in control of it afterwards, I absolutely would want the penalty to be overturned. The thing that I am going to say, and I think is really important, is where are we with clear and obvious? Because this is the thing. It took so long and so many views for the referee to make a decision, for them to decide, is that a significant enough touch, all of that sort of stuff. And I think this is the kind of a scenario that we've seen multiple times, and I think, let me just put this out there. I think it was a terrible PGMOL decision for Manchester United this weekend. I'm not trying to just look at this from an Arsenal perspective. There were a couple of really horrible refereeing calls, and there have been again this year across multiple games, not just Arsenal games. So in this scenario, I don't know why it was re-refereed. We're told that we're not going to re-referee games, and this is one where I think you could argue it both ways. And if you can argue it both ways, surely you go with an on-field decision. Surely. So I'm not saying I think that is a stonewall penalty. There should be no doubt about it and we've been robbed. I think actually it looks like Nick Pope gets a decent touch on the ball. And I'm not furious with the outcome. Of course, that might be different if we hadn't gone on to win the game. I can't tell you that either way. But I did say at the time, it does look like he gets a touch, and I'm not sure it's a penalty. I did say that to the friend I was watching the game with. I just think it was re-refereed, and we were told it's not going to be re-refereed. And I'm sure for any club, not just Arsenal, there will be a scenario later in this year where you look at something and you go, oh, why are they re-refereeing that? And then they make a different decision, and it just causes frustration. I think it's the lying to us, really, that is the problem. Don't lie to us. Just, if you're going to re-referee stuff, re-referee it. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it, because for me, I think if he doesn't give it on the pitch, and then we see that replay, we're all going, oh, what a decision. Yeah, he's seen Nick Pope get a touch on it. But I think if he does give it, it's close enough that it shouldn't be re-refereed. Clear and obvious. Clear and obvious. It's frustrating. It's one of those marginal things that seems to never go our way, as Bukayo Saka said in his post-match interview, but that left us still at 0-0 without a penalty. I think Victor Gyökeres will be gutted because it would have been a penalty that he would take. I'm certain of it. And it would have helped him kind of get some of the criticism off his back as well. Earn the penalty, score the penalty. Great job, well done. We've seen players, Bruno Fernandes, big players, miss key penalties recently. So it would have been good for Victor Gyökeres. So I think he's probably a bit gutted. Thought he was okay. We'll do team performances at the end. But obviously then we felt very good. We carried on, keep going in the attacking sense. We made a lot of chances. Like I said before, 8 shots before their goal. I think we were doing really, really well in that first half. And then Newcastle got a corner. They got a corner that Mosquera didn't need to give away. He kind of failed to do what he needed to do with the ball and ended up hooking it out of play for a corner. You didn't know at the time how much that was going to sting us. But I have to say, Gabriel, so weak on that cross. He goes down looking for a foul with a touch on his back from, I'm going to try it again, Nick Voltemade. I think that's how you say it. And I must admit, when I saw it again, Arsenal players were appealing like mad. There are 2 hands in the back. But again, at the time, I said, that is really soft. Like, I don't think he's going to get that. And I think they did come to the right decision. I think Gabriel, in this scenario, feels 2 hands on his back and just goes down. He thinks he's going to get the foul. But actually, this striker is really big and really gangly. And he barely touches him. Like, I think it probably feels like someone's very close to him because of the 2 hands on the back. And he thinks he can buy a free kick. But actually, it's a very soft touch because he's so gangly and he's not really anywhere near him. He can't get any power. He's just got a long reach. And it was a bad look for Gabriel in that moment. And thank God he scored the winner because I think otherwise... Well, no, we'll have this conversation anyway. I think we've conceded 2 goals in 2 games against Manchester City and Newcastle where he could do better. He doesn't need to go hunting in the Manchester City game. And he should just... challenge for this ball. If he challenges for this ball, I don't think it goes in. I really don't. And, we're talking about Gabriel as the hero later in this podcast. Absolutely. And he's done a great job and he is a brilliant Arsenal player and I love him. I think he is fantastic. But it's 2 mistakes in 2 games for me. So I think he needed to do a little bit better in that scenario. And I don't know why. In either scenario, right? He runs backwards and barely makes a challenge, but that had knocked the striker off balance. He's very unlikely that he's going to get a clear contact if Gabriel's right there with him, or he gets up and challenges for it. Either way, I think he either blocks the header or puts the striker off so much that the header isn't as dangerous. But Newcastle score and it's 1-0, and I was sat there thinking, wow, how, we have been far better team. And I also thought, I think this is probably one of our best kind of 35 minutes of football of the whole season so far. Lots of attacking verve, lots of great play, some nice defensive moments as well, of course. And we're 1-0 down. And I couldn't believe it. It was just, I just sat there and I was really trying not to be like a bitter Arsenal fan who was upset about everything, in the world. But I was blown away by the fact that we were behind. Really frustrated. And I thought we'd been the better team comfortably. We didn't really threaten for the rest of the first half. And that was that. We went in 1-0 down. Let's talk about the second half of the game in the second half of this podcast. I'm going to take a very short break. Stay where you are and I will be right back. Hello guys. Really, really sorry to interrupt. Just one very small favour from me. If you could go and leave a 5-star review for this podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from, it really, really does help. All I want to do is get this coverage to more Arsenal fans out there in the world and grow our community as much as possible. And 5-star reviews across Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen, it really, really does help. If you go and leave a review, more Gooners will see this podcast and will be able to receive the coverage 3 times a week. We're doing match reviews, match previews, and instant reactions at the moment. I'm really enjoying it, and I hope you are too. So a 5-star review would go a long, long way to helping me out. Thank you so much. Hello, and welcome back to this episode of Arsenal Unfiltered. We're talking Arsenal 2, Newcastle 1, a brilliant result yesterday. So happy with it. And a dominant second half performance from Arsenal. In the first half, we had 54% of the ball, made 0.9 XG to Newcastle's 46% of the ball and 0.41 XG. A game that I think we were far better in the first half than our opponents, but in the second half that really widened. 73% possession, 1.14 XG to Newcastle's 27 and 0.2 XG. They had 4 shots in the second half. We had 11, including 2 big chances. 2 big chances in the first half as well. And I have to say, we had Newcastle on the ropes. You could hear it in the crowd. There was nervousness. There was some reservations about how they were playing, but also you could see it in their formation. They really dropped in, made that back 5 up. There was questions at the start whether they'd line up with a 4 or a 5. They ended up with a 4, but then kind of moved into the 5 as we really grew in the game. And Mikel Arteta, I've said this a couple of times, and I appreciate that people maybe don't agree with me on this. I don't think I can say I disagree with how he's lined up in a number of the games so far this year. A lot of people questioned the Eze Marino call a couple of times. There's been questions about Trossard on the left. I kind of have a justification for all of those. Whilst I'm not sure they're what I would have done, or whilst I'm not sure they're the only solution, they're a very Mikel Arteta solution, but it's not the only solution. I can make rationale for them. But in Mikel Arteta's Arsenal career, I have often thought, can he change the game from the bench? Is there enough kind of willingness to go gung-ho to take the handbrake off, as everyone's been talking about? I'm sure the Athletic are loving all that content that is coming their way. So can he change the game from the bench? Can he get his substitutions right? And in multiple games now this year, Athletic, Manchester City, and now Newcastle, I think he's got it so right, and he has been so willing to go for it. In the way that Arsene Wenger used to when we weren't winning a game, Arsene Wenger would absolutely go for it. No holds barred. We would have Rosicky, Fabregas, Nasri all on the pitch at the same time with 2 strikers in front of them. He didn't care. He went for the win. He put all his most attacking players on. Mikel Arteta is starting to take a leaf out of that book. At half-time, Saliba came on for Mascara. We've already discussed that. I think it was because of the Mascara mistake. But at 70 minutes, Bukayo Saka came off. I guess that's a fitness thing. Martinelli comes on. But Mikel Merino comes on for Ricardo Calafiori. We go to a back 3. So as Newcastle was sitting back, Mikel Arteta recognises it, and we go to a back 3 at 82 minutes. Martin Odegaard comes on for Martin Zubimendi. So let's bring on a more attack-minded midfielder for a more defensive one. It was great. I loved seeing him go for it. We had nothing to lose. Absolutely nothing to lose. So why not? Why not go for it? And it's another game where he changes the game from the bench. Mikel Merino scores a goal. Martin Odegaard gets an assist. Wonderful stuff. Absolutely wonderful stuff. And Mikel Arteta receives a lot of undue criticism in my book, but one of the things that I've always thought was the substitutions. I think he's grown so much this year, and his ability to change the game and pivot during games and change systems seems to be growing a lot, and I'm so happy for that. If I was to critique Mikel Arteta for anything else this season, I think it would probably just be maybe some of the timings of the subs could be a bit earlier. In the Liverpool game, I think we could have gone earlier. But, I'm picking out little bits there. I think he's doing a really, really good job. And we've had a difficult start to this year. Difficult start in terms of the fixture list. Difficult start in terms of some of the context. If we get a 0-0 draw at Anfield and Szoboszlai doesn't score that free kick, I think it's a completely different season so far. There's been individual errors on the pitch from Arsenal players that he's paid the price for as well. Gabriel against City, I think Arteta got a ton of criticism when I think that was a player mistake. But, Mikel Arteta took the flak. And I just think, for me, he's growing and he's done a fairly good job. And the criticism that he's received is not, level with how he's performed this year, and I'm really, really happy to see him change the game from the bench again. Before we get on to how he changed the game and the Mikel Merino goal, I want to just quickly talk about that Timber chance, because it is a lovely move through the middle from Arsenal. We kind of build up, but then we find a wall of Newcastle players as they as they drop back in. They drop back in and they make it really difficult for us. Fair play, that is what I would want my manager to do. I think in that scenario they needed to grind out a win, and they didn't have a way to grind it out. It was Martin Zubimendi, I believe, who put the ball over the top. And again, this is a great ball. It's one of those balls that we've seen Ødegaard play a lot, and it's a scoopy pass. We're just met with, I'm just watching it back now, we are met with an absolute wall of people. Eze pings it into Trossard. Trossard gets it back out to Martin Zubimendi, and it is a scoop. It's a scoop. And Timber is he's in the centre forward position. Classic Arsenal fullback play. He's where Victor Gyökeres needs to be, and Victor Gyökeres is where Calafiori needs to be. It's all over the place. The header from Timber is so good. So good. There is nothing more that Timber could do. I know he's like in front of the goal, basically on the 6-yard box, but it's a very, it's not a ball that's coming at him with a lot of speed. He's going the same direction as the ball, so very difficult to generate power, which he does generate enough power. And Nick Pope, what a save. I mean, I thought Nick Pope was good, actually. He made a really good save from the left-footed Eze volley. Eze doesn't quite get it in the first half with that volley, but Pope, it was going in. Pope really needed to make the save, and I think when you watch it from the reverse angle, it's even more impressive because Timber really does put it towards the corner. And yeah, I thought that was a big chance, and it was a moment where I was saying, oh, I can't believe it. It felt like all of the little moments, as has happened so often over the past 3 years, those little moments just not falling our way. The penalty, the corner that Newcastle score from. And now this, I was there going, Jesus, come on, we are the better team here. Somehow we're losing. Somehow we are losing. But on the 84th minute, like I say, Mikel Merino, I mean, like I say, I thought Pope was having a very good game. A very good game. If you've got to beat a keeper who is on form, this is how you do it. I mean, it is as pinpoint a header as you are going to see. Mikel Merino had come on for Ricardo Calafiori, and Ricardo Calafiori is usually our chaos agent. Well, Mikel Merino can absolutely do that job as well. And this is why Mikel Merino's in the team. This is absolutely why he's in the team, because he is a player who can come on from midfield, run into the box and score goals like this. And this is why the attacking or the conservative criticism is wild and it's silly and it makes no sense. Yes, Mikel Merino is not Martin Ødegaard or Eberechi Eze. He doesn't flow. He doesn't link play in the same way. But he's basically having a striker at 8. That's what he does. He gets into the box and he scores goals. He crashes. He's more Frank Lampard than he is Paul Scholes, and that's what he does. And I just think, what a great player to have. And I'm so happy for him because, again, he's been part of a lot of undue criticism, not necessarily leathered at him, but his name has been used of oh, you can't pick Merino, you can't pick Merino. That must be difficult, right? It must be difficult to be that player who is the subject of such, vocal criticism for your manager. Why are you picking him? That's got to be hard. But what a professional to just keep going. We play a short corner. I think it's Rice to Eze to Ødegaard, and then Ødegaard back out to Rice. Let's talk about Declan Rice because this assist is wild. His performance yesterday I thought was really good, but his delivery at times was really, really impressive, and it finally got the reward. It's a wonderful ball. It's just pure quality, this goal, because the header's so good as well. I don't know if this will go down as a goal from a corner or a goal from open play. I think it will be open play because of the couple of passes beforehand. It couldn't be more pinpoint. It hits the inside of the post, goes in. The cross is brilliant. Absolutely. I think we're getting a bit kind of used to the Declan Rice deliveries being superb, and it kind of washes over us a little bit. But that is a really, really good ball. So hard to defend against for Newcastle. The header, just to glance it, to know where he is in space, against the goal is really impressive. And that's the instinct that I think Mikel Merino has better than most, because he's literally, his back is to the goal when he heads this ball. It's perfect. It's brilliant. And I'm just so happy for him that he's the player that got this goal after so much criticism. It's not great marking from Newcastle, I have to say that, but I don't care. So it's 1-1 at this point, and Like I said earlier, Gary Neville has said his very loaded comment about, teams that win the title go on to win here. And you knew he just wanted that to be the narrative. He wanted it to be the narrative. If he couldn't get Arsenal losing at St James's Park and not having the minerals to get a point there or 3 points, he wanted the narrative to be, they just didn't quite get it over the line. Nearly, men. And in his voice, when this Gabriel header goes in, you can hear him. You can hear the disappointment. You can hear him go, in his stupid little accent. This corner, this delivery, again, this header is really, really good. It's a lot of quality. Nick Pope should absolutely come for it and do a lot better. He's a massive bloke, can't get through the crowd of bodies. And I don't think anyone comes close to fouling him. The thing for me, though, is we're criticised a lot for when we score corners. It's a wild thing. Criticised for scoring goals. Criticised for being good at something. For being the best at something, actually. And this is why Arsenal fans just do not care. Because corners have just earned us 3 points. And again, it's a substitute who comes on and makes a really telling contribution. Martin Odegaard, I've missed him. God, I've missed him at the start of this season. I think, again, he's another player who gets a lot of criticism because his goals and assist numbers aren't as good as they were. But my word, do we miss him when he's not in the team. I cannot wait for Odegaard, Saka and Eze to line up together. That is going to be lethal. And we talk about Victor Gyökeres. Has he had a good start to his Arsenal career? Does he need to do more? When those three are behind him and behind him regularly, I promise you, he's going to score a lot of goals. And I expect him to score a lot of goals in the next 6 games. Have a conversation with me if Victor Gyökeres is still on 3 goals in 6 games' time. Then we can talk actually about is he doing enough? Like, is this the striker for us? Is he doing what his hype was billed for? Absolutely, we can have that conversation at this point. But with the start we've had, to have 3 goals and to get his fitness starting to look better and to start his build-up play starting to look better, that's great. That's great. But back to the point, Martin Odegaard, so grateful that he is here in this team. So grateful he was fit enough to come off the bench and deliver this absolute peach of the corner to the near post. Gabriel, I've criticised him already in this podcast. I've said 2 mistakes in 2 games, giving away 2 sloppy goals. Shouldn't have done it. But this is as Gabriel a goal as you're ever going to see, right? Because there is a crowd of men around him. There is a crowd of Newcastle bodies. They know where the threat is. They know that it is Gabriel. They know it's Victor Gyökeres, and Mikel Merino's in there as well. So they are trying to outcrowd that area. I would say there's probably 4 Newcastle players right in his area. He outleaps them all. Nick Pope does a terrible job coming through the corner. And that's that. We score that and it is game over. Delighted. Absolutely delighted. My living room felt like the Emirates for a moment. So happy. So happy. I'm gonna quickly wrap up here because I've been going for a little while and I want to get this out to you guys. But I think Mikel Arteta said it best, and it's just 2 words of fully deserved. Bukayo Saka mentioned it as well. He talked about the penalty. Some things just never seem to go Arsenal's way. I thought it was a very good performance from Arsenal in general. We got our shots away. We created good chances. We were met with, for 85 minutes, we were met with a Nick Pope who was on very good form, and we'd made 1 mistake at the back and they'd managed to score from it again. A narrative that we know about. But we had to show steel. We had to show steel against Manchester City, and we had to show steel against Newcastle. We grabbed 4 points from 0 in the last 2 games. That could be massive come the run-in, and we are now only 2 points behind Liverpool, who are obviously were perfect, until this weekend. They're still a very good team. And it's going to be a fight. It's going to be a slugfest. But we've got through these first 6 games with 13 points. It's a position that I'm really, really happy with. I think I expected it to be different. I actually expected us to lose at Newcastle and draw at Liverpool and beat City. So those results have been turned around. But if you look at 4 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss from the fixtures that we've played, it's a good return. And Liverpool have not played any of those fixtures. They've had the Newcastle game, but that's it. They still need to play Old Trafford. They need to go and play City. They'll have very difficult games coming up. So I'm really, really pleased with where we're at, and I'm pleased with the steel that we showed And I think the players yesterday absolutely deserved all 3 points, and they got them. Really pleased for them. Really pleased for Mikel Arteta. Much easier run coming up now. Olympiacos on Wednesday night. I think that we'll see a fair bit of rotation for that. West Ham at home. That is a very, very winnable game. And Fulham away, also a very winnable game when we come back from the international break. So the next 3 games are looking good. And in the Premier League, we carry on with Crystal Palace at home, Brighton at home, Burnley away, Sunderland away. So 18 points from the next 6 in the Premier League, in my opinion. I think we have to go and get those points. And we'll see where we're at that point. I think it's Chelsea and Spurs after that. That point we'll really know. We'll really know who is in this title race and who isn't. Will Manchester City have pulled themselves into it? Who knows? I don't think Chelsea are going to, but Arsenal and Liverpool will certainly be there. And it'll be interesting after those 6 games to see the lay of the league table. Delighted with the result. Hope you are too, and I hope you enjoyed listening to this on your Monday morning or whenever you're listening to it and taking it all in and reliving those absolutely brilliant Arsenal moments. Like I said, guys, at the start, if you want to follow the podcast, it's really simple to do. Just go to your podcast provider of choice and hit the follow button. If you'd like to do that, that means you're going to get podcasts from me at least 3 times a week, sometimes more. And the next podcast you'll hear was the match preview podcast for the Olympiacos game. So follow along to make sure you don't miss that. I'm going to leave it there, guys. All that's left to say now is thank you for following, thank you for listening, and I will speak to you again very, very soon.